And now a reading from Michael Chuck, 2001. Whatever it takes, I know I can make it through. If I hold out, I know I can make it through. Be the best that I can be. Hear what I say to you.
And all I've got to offer is sensitivity, intelligence, and charm.
Oh, Degrassi. Where to even begin? I guess, well, the beginning is probably a good start. The Kids of Degrassi Street was a Canadian children's TV show, and the first series in the Degrassi franchise, following a group of kids living on Degrassi Street in Ontario. It began as a series of after-school specials created by Linda Schuyler before being picked up for a full run. The show as a whole ran from September 12th, 1979 to January 5th, 1986. But that wasn't the end for Degrassi. Oh no, far from it actually. Degrassi Junior High was a Canadian teen drama TV show. It ran from January 18th, 1987 to March 6th, 1989. The series centered around an ensemble cast as they attended the titular Degrassi Junior High School, as they faced the various challenges that come with being a junior high student. This show was also written by Linda Schuyler with the addition of Kit Hood. Things took a more intense turn with this one, having the kids deal with challenges ranging from drug abuse to teenage pregnancy. But this is still only the beginning. We're not even close to the series at the center of this video yet, if you can believe it. Degrassi High was a Canadian teen drama. It ran from November 6th, 1989 to January 28th, 1991 on CBC TV and PBS in the United States. It once again featured an ensemble cast of teenagers as they experienced the highs and lows of adolescence. Many of the cast members from Degrassi Junior High were brought over to this new series, including Stefan Brogren, who just could not let go of Degrassi. Ever. Linda Schuyler and Kit Hood also returned as head writers. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. We're here to talk about Degrassi, the next generation.
Space, the final frontier.
Sorry to all my hardcore Degrassi fans out there. We're skipping talking about the movie. No, not that movie. This movie. Degrassi: The Next Generation is a Canadian teen drama and the fourth series in the Degrassi franchise. It ran from October 14th, 2001 to, wait for it, August 2nd, 2015. This show was on for 14 years. It opens with a reunion of the cast of Degrassi High, featuring, you guessed it, Stefan Brogren, among others. Except now these guys are the teachers and principals and guardians, with the bulk of the story surrounding a new group of kids. This show was a lot. Like, a lot. Anyone who watched the show in their parents' basement circa 2007 can tell you that. So let's talk about my relationship with Degrassi, The Next Generation. To say I was obsessed with Degrassi as a middle schooler / young high schooler would be an understatement. I ate this shit up like, I don't know, eating something else very aggressively. Every day after school, I would make my way to the basement and turn on Teen Nick, which my family had just added to our cable package. Hell yeah. And I would watch literal hours of Degrassi. because that seemed to be all they showed on Teen Nick at the time. Baby, there's a shark in the water. Definitely worth adding that to the cable package. The drama was gripping.
You just walked out on a date with one of Degrassi's coolest girls for your mom's pasta sauce?
I had a huge crush on both Manny Santos and JT York. Spoilers, may he rest in peace. Yes, I do consider killing JT a hate crime of some sort. Aside from all of that though, Degrassi unironically taught me a lot. It was the first place I was really exposed to a lot of stuff, for better or worse. And that kind of brings us to the purpose of this video. Degrassi was the first time I had ever seen a positive portrayal of a trans person, with the introduction of Adam Torres in 2010. Yes, it took a while. Too long, in fact, for us to get that kind of representation. But as a young teen growing up in a conservative family, it honestly did a lot for me. And I'm sure it did a lot for other kids too. But damn, if they didn't just screw it up by killing Adam in a car accident. This was in 2013, after I had stopped watching Degrassi religiously, but I was disappointed to read that while I was researching this video. And this is really a trend with Degrassi. Doing something really good, but then doing something really not good, sometimes in the same episode, which is, incidentally, the point of this video! Yay, we got there! Breaking down the good and the bad of Degrassi. Mostly early first 3 seasons of Next Generation, because me and David have been re-watching the show, which is what inspired this video, and that's what we're up to, so it's freshest in my mind. No, I did not watch all 15 seasons of Degrassi in preparation of this video. If you want commitment like that, go watch Jenny Nicholson. Get ready for a whole lot of Emma Nelson, Paige Michaelchuk, Drake, and Spinner. Well, honestly, Spinner never really leaves. Anyway, let's talk about Degrassi, the Next Generation. The good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm about to say 2 words, and anyone who's familiar with Degrassi and Drake's relationship with Degrassi, yes, that Drake, will instantly take 10 psychic damage. And I'm sorry. Ready? Okay, here I go. Wheelchair, Jimmy. Okay, I'll give you a minute to recover. You good? No, you're not. Okay. Jimmy Brooks was introduced, honestly, as a pretty cool character. He wasn't the token black character by any means, which was honestly pretty good for 2001. That's what was going on a lot of the time. The main cast actually featured quite a few people of color, all of whom were complex and not stereotypes. And they didn't feel forced for the sake of diversity. Like how college pamphlets will have pictures of groups of kids and then there's the one student of color in the group. You get what I'm talking about. Tokenization. They did a very good job of avoiding tokenization. And you know what? Good on you, 2001 Degrassi. Good on you. They even did an episode on Islamophobia in the wake of 9/11, which, while not handled perfectly, was cool to see in a kids show for the time. But okay, back to Jimmy Brooks. Like I said, Jimmy was fine at the start, but that was before he became what every kid who watched Degrassi would refer to as Wheelchair Jimmy. Okay. Season 4, episodes 7 and 8, titled Time Stands Still Part 1 and 2 respectively, was, okay, they were the school shooting episodes, which I just don't really have the time to unpack all of that right now. The relevant bit is that during the course of these 2 episodes, Jimmy Brooks is shot in the back by the gunman and rendered paralyzed from the waist down, which would have been a really cool opportunity to explore what it's like to become disabled as a teenager after a trauma event like that. And credit where credit is due, they do explore that a little bit in the following seasons, exploring Jimmy's new relationship with romance, sports, etc. The problem arises when it becomes apparent that that's kind of all Jimmy's episodes are about anymore, save for a few examples. His entire personality seems to become being paralyzed and using a wheelchair. Wheelchair Jimmy. He's the only member of the main cast to be physically disabled, and it does feel forced for the sake of diversity points. What Degrassi did right when it came to race identity, it did wrong when it came to disability identity. To the point of almost parody, actually becoming the target of parody in the sketch comedy show The Kroll Show and its recurring segment, Wales, Ontario. And it just sucks because it kind of feels like this opportunity was wasted. People don't lose their complexity because they become disabled. But that's far from where Degrassi's problems end. This is where I'm going to start talking about sexual assault. So if that's something you're sensitive to, please feel free to click away from this video or click to the next chapter card. What I would consider Degrassi's first heavy hitter episode was season 2, episode 7, Shout. A 2-part special, the episodes follow cheerleader Paige Michalchuk as she experiences and grapples with the fallout of a sexual assault. And if I'm being honest, once again, credit where credit is due. For the time, they actually handled this story very well. It addresses things like victim blaming, denial, and reclamation of power in a really nuanced and delicate way that's easily digestible for tweens and young teens. But then there's the B plot. Take a guess. Go ahead, what do you think the B plot of the sexual assault episode is? If you guess that it's a comical story about the trials of having a messy locker mate, then you would be correct. The dissonance between these 2 plots is just... it's a lot. And I get that the comical B plot is probably meant to make the heavier A plot a little bit more palpable for the show's young audience. But upon rewatching as an adult, it really only seems to take away from the severity that the subject matter of the A plot should be treated with. It gives you emotional whiplash to go immediately from a young girl coming to terms with the fact that what she experienced was sexual assault to 2 preteen boys fighting over a messy locker. And this is a problem that comes up a few times in Degrassi. A very heavy A plot running alongside a comical B plot, which might work for some topics, like lying to your parents, watching porn, whatever. And like I mentioned, it can make the content easier to swallow for young teens. But for things like sexual assault and self-harm, etc., it just seems in poor taste. And I think it could end up sending the message to teens that something like a messy locker is just as serious as experiencing sexual assault. I was diagnosed with ADHD in, I think, 3rd grade. I'd never seen someone else with ADHD in movies, books, TV shows, anything. So imagine how excited I was when I finally saw a character with the same brain funk as me in Degrassi. And a primary character, too. Gavin Spinner Mason is a character who started his run on Degrassi at the very beginning and never quite left. And he had ADHD. He took his medication during the school day, struggled with focusing on schoolwork, etc. But he also had a lot of complexity aside from that. His ADHD was not treated like a secret or a source of shame. It was just a fact about Spinner. And I loved that. because I also took ADHD medication. That was also a fact about me. But the episode where this fact about Spinner is introduced is... Basketball Diaries was the 7th episode of season 1. In it, Jimmy convinces Spinner to let him have one of his Ritalin pills, resulting in Spinner missing a dose. Resulting in... Wow. Is that how people with ADHD act when unmedicated? I had no idea, and I've been living with it my whole life. This is obviously not what the majority of people with ADHD act like when unmedicated. This is what we in the industry would call a caricature of an unmedicated ADHD haver. For those of us who might need reminding, a caricature is a picture, description, or imitation of a person in which certain striking characteristics are exaggerated in order to create a comic or grotesque effect. Which is what this is. It's exaggerating the symptoms of ADHD to make a point about taking your friend's Ritalin, which obviously you shouldn't do. But come on, guys, there had to have been a better way to get that point across. And this exaggeration, like the other issues that we are talking about in this video, is repeated with different issues over and over and over again. Making caricatures out of different types of people can be an effective way to get a point across to a teenage audience. I'm not denying that. But for a show as long-running and award-winning as Degrassi, I feel like they could have done better. I'm about to talk about eating disorders here, so if that's something that you're sensitive about, please feel free to click away or click ahead using the chapter cards in the time bar down there. Season 2, Episode 9 follows Toby Isaacs as he develops an eating disorder as a result of feeling inferior. The disordered eating starts at the beginning of the episode and develops until the end of the episode when he passes out at a wrestling match, and then he just doesn't have an eating disorder for the rest of the show. It's never brought up again. The episode literally ends with him passing out. No recovery arc, no nothing, just poof, gone. So that's obviously not how things work in the real world. Another example of this kind of quick wrap-up thing is the season 2 episode Shout that we talked about in the tone problem section of this video. The events, which I won't recount here for content warning purposes, are never brought up again. No lasting trauma comes up, at least for a while. And again, I get it. These are supposed to be easily digestible stories to teach kids about hard topics. But to give a well-rounded education on these topics, and correct me if I'm wrong, you should also give an account on how these things can affect someone in the long term. The problem doesn't resolve itself in 25 to 45 minutes. An eating disorder isn't something where you pass out once and then suddenly you don't have an eating disorder anymore. It takes hard work to recover from something like that. Something that I do want to give credit to, though, is that I appreciate that their first disordered eating story, there ends up being quite a few, is about a male character, subverting the stereotype that eating disorders are a girl thing. That was especially neat for 2002. Good job on that, guys. And that's just the thing about Degrassi, isn't it? They did so many things right, but always with that one little thing that felt wrong. Degrassi was honestly pretty pivotal to my development as a young teen, for better or worse. It taught me about types of people and types of trials that I never would have heard about at that age otherwise, and I'm sure that it did that for a lot of other teens at the time. I also want to highlight that as the show went on, they did improve upon a lot of the issues that we talked about today. But I did stop watching around 2010 when I was about 15, 16, so I can't really speak on anything after that. For its time, especially at the start, there's no denying that it was groundbreaking, if incredibly cheesy, stuff.
You just walked out on a date with one of Degrassi's coolest girls for your mom's pasta sauce?
Especially in comparison to the usually pretty shallow teen media that was being put out at the time. And its legacy is sure to last for years to come, or at least until the next reboot. For those of you who couldn't tell, I am dressed as JT York from season 1. I know, it's a little niche. I hope you liked the video. If you did, why not let the algorithm know by giving it a like or leaving a comment? You could even share it if you really liked it. If you want to see more, I have great news. You can subscribe. Wow. If you'd like to support the channel, links to my Patreon and merch are in the link tree in the description. Patrons get fun perks like getting to vote on future videos, Discord access, blooper reels, and credit at the end of videos. All that good stuff. If you didn't like this video, you probably went to Lakehurst, huh? Bye! Having the kids deal with challenges ranging from substance abuse